Morning, people. Well, I'm a little bit bemused and wary about the turn of events lately. On the world stage, the possibility that the Ukraine sabotaged the Nord Stream pipeline, and the Poles helped the saboteurs get away, certainly puts a cat amongst the pigeons at NATO, doesn't it? But to me, this action was the Ukrainian government proving a point to wean Europe off Russian gas. It smacks to me a bit like how the British government in World War II gave minimum information about Pearl Harbor before it was attacked. Because those in power in England, namely Winston Churchill, knew that if the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor, the Americans would join in the war. Okay, in the former case of the Ukrainians and the pipeline, that was direct action. Whereas in the example I gave from World War II, it was merely not telling the truth. Deception. But I think sometimes we have to deceive or take direct action to prove a point. So I'm with the Ukrainians on this one. Sometimes you have to sacrifice something or damage a potential relationship to get things done. Can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs, etc. The other case I'm thinking of also involves Churchill and World War II, whereas the British, because we understood the Enigma code, they got info of a massive bombing raid on Coventry, a city in, I suppose, the Midlands. Churchill was told, should we evacuate? Because casualties would have been and were catastrophic. He said no, because if they evacuated Coventry, the Germans would probably catch on to the fact that they'd cracked the Enigma code and could read every secret German communication and change the code or figure out a new code. And so valuable was the British being able to break German codes without the Germans knowing it, that he couldn't risk that secret being found out. So he sacrificed thousands of lives. And I am exclusively quoting from Captain John Sheridan, Babylon 5 here. And afterwards, there is newsreel footage of Churchill visiting the rubble of Coventry, and you can see it on his face. He knew he was responsible for these thousands of deaths. But that is what a leader must do. A leader must make a choice as to what is best overall for his people. Especially in wartime. And I know, similarly, leading myself, what is best for me, and someone has reached out an olive branch in a certain situation, and I am inclined to take it. I'm a bit snotty this morning, but my partner's got a cold, so I've probably got it now. Yes, this was a surprising olive branch, and I will need a day or so to think about it, because these days I try not to do things quite as impulsively. It doesn't always work. I am initially wary, should I say. But if all works out the way I hope it's going to work out, then it'll be fine, and it will get rid of some bad blood and certainly make my life less stressful. I'm not expecting anything beyond an olive branch from this particular person. Certain other people involved in the mess may not be as forgiving. I would say if everything I hope comes true, it will be very positive for my life. But at the moment, all I think is I can rebuild bridges with someone who I have known socially and been quite friendly with for a lot of years, as she herself put it. And is it worth chucking away that friendship over what was realistically a petty spat? We shall see. I hope everything's sincere. I hope everything can just about be taken at face value. I'm nervous. But gods know I've got enough, as another friend of mine put it, feuds, grudges and haters, so potentially having at least 2 people less who have reason to have issue with me would be rather nice at the moment. Yeah. But who's to blame for what? I don't care about that. I just want the issue resolved amicably and peacefully. You know, so at least I can... Now everybody's going to know what I'm talking about, so at least everybody knows I can go back in one of the pubs I love. Well, I'm not naming which one, because many of you who have been following will know there's 2. Yeah, I'm cautiously hopeful. I'm cautiously hopeful that NATO won't get their knickers in too much of a twist over the alleged sabotage of the pipeline. What's done is done. The Ukraine may have sabotaged that pipeline, but they didn't start the war with Russia, did they? I view it on a micro level as almost like, I don't know, let's be over dramatic, shall we? Someone taking out a drug dealer that's pushing drugs on their friend who's a hopeless addict and can't do anything about it. That friend maybe knows the drugs are bad, but they can't help it. This is how I view, especially Germany's reliance on Russian oil and gas. And I'm also, although I haven't had any concrete evidence, I think obviously the Ukraine basically winning the naval war should help with shipping. Much of their grain harvest has been devastated, but areas that have been able to produce grain are probably shipping it out. Now, the Black Sea is relatively uncontested. Relatively. Yeah. I had earbuds. Well, you probably don't want to see me cleaning my ears out on YouTube anyway. There could be a market for that. So, yeah. I don't expect it, but I cautiously hope that it could mean my return to the reenactment group even. There you go, I said it. And be able to train with people I counted as good friends again would be a great boost to my self-confidence and my well-being. And this, I suppose, would be my main, I'll admit it, goal for wanting to sort this out. I do not know if the leader of the group feels the same way. That is entirely his choice. So yeah, the olive branch is graciously accepted. And in the coming week, I hope we will sit down and sort this out. And I'll admit, I have on occasions been a bit of a prick about this. Not just a bit, a lot of a prick, to be quite honest. I'm rash, I'm impetuous, I'm aggressive when I think I'm being wronged. These are faults that I freely admit to. I hope we can sort this out. Just as I hope NATO don't get too what's the word I'm looking for? Upset with the Ukraine. It shouldn't affect the supply of NATO training and weapons. And I hope it won't damage the relationship between Germany and Poland. That's a tricky one. We all know there's there's bad blood there. or there probably is in certain circles, just as much as there is bad blood between Russia and Poland. So it could be interesting to see what develops over the coming weeks on the world stage and in my social life. See what I did there with the comparisons. I know it's just what I do. It's just an idea. And I wanted to talk about a wonderful afternoon to end this out. Yesterday afternoon, about 2 o'clock-ish, I went down to Ipswich Community Hub. And the place was packed with good people. And all of a sudden, one of these people, Elaine, who has her own BBC Suffolk radio show, I believe, and also runs Pre-Loved Chica clothing, I think it's called. She sells wonderful clothing from across the world, vintage normally. And it is good fun. And apparently she'd brought down a bottle of Prosecco to share with a favoured client who cancelled. So she decided to share it out, 1 glass each, amongst 7 or 8 of us that were there. And so we sat there being very social and sophisticated with our glasses of Prosecco. And then I presume a new recruit, new volunteer, decided to go up to Sainsbury's and get another bottle. And had what happened next been on film, I would be on one of those epic fail videos. I was holding the glass of Prosecco, it's plastic glass, thankfully, in my hand, and I decided it was a good idea to gesticulate with that hand. The glass leapt out of my hand, and in trying to catch it, I battered it further away. And there was rather a lot of Prosecco on the floor, which I then cleaned up. But honestly, people were looking at me like, how the hell did you do that? Don't know. Perhaps I'm not meant to drink Prosecco. Maybe I'd have kept hold of it if it was a good glass of red. Oh dear. But you know, I think if you're going to fail spectacularly. It's entertaining. We British do have a history, much like the Australians as well. This is something Britain and Australia share in common. We do have a tendency to celebrate our failures, almost glorify them. You know, in Britain we had Eddie the Eagle, the incompetent skier. You know, and we also had the Charge of the Light Brigade, a military disaster that has since become legendarily celebrated as an act of heroism. Yeah, I can't quite work that one out. If you can think of any Australian examples, please mention in the comments. You know, because I can't think of one because I'm not Australian. Although I think the recent Olympic breakdancing debacle certainly is up there. But I watched a video from Stanley Watson on it, and she was pretty much ashamed for her country over this breakdancing professor that represented Australia in the Olympic breakdancing. Because I'm Australian, I don't feel the same way about it. I'm not Australian, so I don't feel the same way about it as perhaps she does. But I'd be interested to hear your opinion in the comments. Yeah. Right, I'm going to have another coffee and then I've got a huge pile of washing up to do. So I will bid you good morning. And you never know, there may be a gaming video up later, because after I've washed up, I'll probably game a bit, because it doesn't look like a park walking morning. and I have a volunteer shift down at Emmaus in town to do from 11 o'clock onwards. So if anybody's about and wants to do a bit of charity shopping, I'll see you there.